Intuition and danger. AK-9's Vigil. Guardian. Vigil. The fluorescent lights of Meridian General Hospital cast harsh shadows across the ICU floor. In room 304, medical monitors beeped steadily, marking each second of life for Detective Megan Reed. Outside the observation window, Max, her German Shepherd partner, remained motionless, amber eyes fixed on his handler's still form. Max's muscles stayed taut beneath his glossy black and tan coat, ears perpetually forward. Officer Jason Torres stood beside him, one hand loosely holding the leash while occasionally stroking the shepherd's back. 24 hours had passed since the incident at Franklin International Airport, and Megan had yet to open her eyes. When Dr. Lewis entered the room, Max's demeanor changed instantly. A low growl rumbled in his chest, hackles rising. Torres gave the leash a gentle tug, but Max refused to relax. There was something about the doctor that the shepherd found deeply troubling. A scent that didn't belong, movements that seemed rehearsed. Through 6 years of partnership, Max had learned to trust his senses above all else. Megan had trained him to follow his instincts, to question what seemed wrong even when others saw nothing amiss. As Dr. Lewis adjusted Megan's foredrip, Max's growl intensified. He caught a whiff of something familiar, the same chemical tang that had led them down that fatal path at the airport. Bonds. Their story had begun 4 years earlier at Eastwood K-9 Academy. Megan Reed, fresh from a promotion to the department's elite drug interdiction unit, had been paired with Max, a German shepherd with a troubled history. 3 handlers had already returned him, citing his stubborn independence. He doesn't trust easily, the trainer had warned. Previous owner abused him. He's got the talent, but he questions everything. Megan had smiled. We'll get along just fine then. Their first months had been a constant negotiation of partnership. Megan never forced compliance. She earned Max's trust through consistency and respect. While other officers used simple reward systems, Megan created puzzles that challenged the shepherd's intelligence, teaching him to think rather than simply obey. Bad guys don't play fair, she told him during training. We need to be smarter, faster, and trust each other completely. By their first anniversary as partners, they had the highest success rate in the department. Max had developed an almost supernatural ability to detect substances others missed, while Megan had learned to read his signals with uncanny precision. Their connection ran deeper than training. When Megan's father died, Max stayed by her side for 3 days straight, refusing food from anyone else. When Max was injured during a pursuit, Megan slept on the floor beside his kennel until he recovered. They weren't just handler and service animal. They were guardians of each other's souls. Discovery. The operation at Franklin International should have been routine, a standard cargo inspection in Terminal D. Homeland Security had flagged a shipment with inconsistent documentation, and Max and Megan were called to perform a secondary screening. The cargo hold smelled of jet fuel, plastic, and the traces of handled packages. Max worked methodically, nose skimming the surfaces of crates. 20 minutes in, his behavior changed. His tail went rigid, nose twitching rapidly, and he sat abruptly beside a crate marked for North Shore Medical Center. Max pawed at the container, signaling something unusual, but not within his trained odor profile. It wasn't narcotics or explosives. This was something different, something wrong. Megan radioed for backup and began documenting the container. That's when she noticed the inconsistency. Shipping labels didn't match the manifest, and security seals showed signs of tampering. When she accessed the company database, the pharmaceutical company listed didn't exist in any legitimate registry. She was photographing the crate when the first shot rang out. Max had sensed the danger seconds before. His ears had swiveled toward the maintenance corridor, his body tensing. But the warning came too late. The bullet caught Megan in the chest, just above her vest. A second shot grazed her temple as she fell. Max launched himself toward the attacker, but a second assailant emerged from behind freight containers. Max felt a sharp sting in his flank, a tranquilizer dart, but managed to sink his teeth into his attacker's arm before the drug pulled him under. When airport security arrived minutes later, they found Megan unconscious and bleeding, with Max beside her, fighting the sedative, his body partially covering hers. Suspicions. Dr. Rachel Morgan, the resident neurologist, paused outside room 304, watching Max's behavior with interest. Having worked with therapy animals and pediatrics, She recognized that his reactions weren't typical anxiety. His focus on Dr. Lewis was deliberate, almost accusatory. "How long has he been acting this way?" she asked Torres quietly. "Only started today," Torres replied, "and only with Lewis. He's fine with the nurses and other doctors." Dr. Morgan frowned, tracking Lewis's movements through the glass. He checked monitors with practiced precision, but rarely looked directly at the patient's face. A subtle but troubling departure from standard bedside manner. "How long have you known Dr. Lewis?" she asked casually. "Since Megan was admitted," Torres answered. "Why?" Dr. Morgan pulled out her phone and scrolled through the staff directory. Lewis wasn't listed among the attending physicians. A quick check of the hospital database revealed no credentials on file matching his name. Before she could alert Torres, alarms blared from Megan's monitors. Through the window, they watched as Dr. Lewis adjusted the 4 drip, his movements quick and deliberate. Megan's vitals plummeted on the screen. Max exploded into action, lunging with such force that Torres nearly lost his grip on the leash. The shepherd's bark echoed through the corridor, not his alert bark for detected substances, but his warning bark, the same one he had issued seconds before the shooting at the airport. Unmasked. "Stop him," Dr. Morgan shouted, but Max had already broken free, charging into the room with military precision. The man calling himself Dr. Lewis turned, his hand diving beneath his scrubs. Recognition flashed in his eyes when he saw Max, fear mixed with hatred. He abandoned his reach for what was surely a weapon and bolted for the service elevator at the end of the hall. Torres called for security while Dr. Morgan rushed to Megan's bedside, disconnecting the 4-line and checking her vitals. Max hesitated only for a split second, torn between staying with his handler and pursuing the threat. Megan had trained him for exactly this dilemma. Protect her, but neutralize imminent dangers first. Max shot down the corridor, claws scrabbling against the polished floor. The elevator doors were closing when he launched himself through the narrowing gap, a 70-pound missile of focused determination. Inside the elevator, the imposter pressed against the wall, reaching again for his concealed weapon. Max didn't give him the chance. Years of training guided his attack, precise, controlled, and overwhelming. He clamped his jaws around the man's forearm, forcing him to drop a syringe that clattered to the floor. When the elevator doors opened in the basement, security personnel found Max pinning the suspect against the wall, his teeth maintaining a vice-like grip while the man remained perfectly still. The hospital locked down immediately. The imposter, identified as Michael Reeves, was an orderly from a competing research hospital. A search of his effects revealed identification badges for 3 different medical facilities and a phone containing encrypted communications with multiple unknown contacts. Threads. As Megan's condition stabilized under Dr. Morgan's care, the investigation expanded rapidly. The syringe Reeves had carried contained a compound designed to mimic heart failure, undetectable in standard toxicology screenings. The crate Max had identified at the airport yielded an even more disturbing discovery. Beneath a layer of legitimate pharmaceuticals lay sealed containers of genetically modified biological agents. Police Chief Robert Harrington arrived at the hospital the following morning, his face a mask of professional concern. He stood at Megan's bedside, assuring Torres and Dr. Morgan that every resource would be dedicated to finding those responsible. "Detective Reed is one of our finest," he said, resting a hand on the bed rail. "We'll get to the bottom of this." Max, who had been allowed to remain in Megan's room, watched the police chief with unwavering attention. As Harrington moved around the bed, the shepherd's ears flattened against his skull. A low growl built in his chest. "Dr. Morgan noticed immediately, the same reaction Max had shown to the imposter doctor. She casually suggested they step outside to discuss Megan's security, using the opportunity to alert hospital security via her pager. In the hallway, Chief Harrington's demeanor changed subtly. "The dog seems unstable," he remarked. "Perhaps he should be removed, for the patient's safety." Before Torres could respond, Max's bark thundered from inside the room. They rushed back to find Megan's eyes open for the first time since the shooting, her hand weakly gripping Max's fur as the shepherd positioned himself protectively between her and the doorway. "Chief," she whispered hoarsely, "don't trust him. The shipments, he knows." Harrington's expression hardened. His hand moved toward his sidearm, but hospital security rounded the corner, responding to Dr. Morgan's alert. The police chief assessed the situation in an instant, then turned and walked calmly toward the stairs. Shadows. Federal agents arrived within the hour. Megan, though weak, provided enough information to launch a massive investigation. The pharmaceutical shipments were fronts for a sophisticated bioweapons operation, with modified viral agents being tested through controlled exposure in civilian populations. They've been using hospitals as unwitting distribution points, Agent Keller explained to Dr. Morgan. The corruption extends through multiple law enforcement agencies, customs departments, and medical facilities. Megan's recovery progressed slowly. The bullet had missed her heart by centimeters, and the head wound had caused a severe concussion. Max remained her constant guardian, leaving her side only for brief necessary breaks. Dr. Morgan implemented unprecedented security measures for the hospital ward. Each staff member underwent rigorous identity verification, and all medications were triple-checked before administration. Your dog saved not just your life, Dr. Morgan told Megan during rounds, but potentially thousands of others. The agents we found in that shipment, if they'd been distributed as planned. What had begun as a routine cargo inspection had unraveled a conspiracy with global implications. Chief Harrington had vanished, his home abandoned, his accounts emptied. The investigation revealed offshore payments dating back 5 years, coinciding with his promotion to chief. Michael Reeves remained in custody but refused to cooperate, clearly more afraid of his employers than of federal prosecution. Testimony. 6 weeks after the shooting, Megan walked slowly into the federal courthouse, Max padding faithfully beside her. Her testimony before the grand jury lasted 4 hours, detailing everything from the initial cargo inspection to her suspicions about departmental corruption. It began with discrepancies in seizure reports, she explained. Confiscated shipments that never reached evidence lockup, case files that disappeared, investigations shut down without explanation. The conspiracy had unraveled rapidly after Harrington's exposure. 7 other officers were indicted, along with customs officials, airport security personnel, and pharmaceutical executives. The bioweapons program was traced to a shadow organization with connections to both private military contractors and foreign intelligence services. Max, granted special permission to accompany Megan in the courtroom, remained alert throughout the proceedings. His actions had earned him commendations from multiple agencies, though the shepherd seemed indifferent to the honors. His focus remained entirely on Megan. The grand jury returned indictments against 27 individuals across multiple organizations. The case would ultimately lead to one of the largest conspiracy prosecutions in the country's history. Legacy. Autumn painted the trees in crimson and gold as Megan and Max walked through Riverside Park. 3 months had passed since the courthouse testimony. Megan's physical recovery was nearly complete, though she still carried the weight of betrayal by her own chief. They stopped at a bench overlooking the river. Megan sat while Max remained standing, eyes scanning their surroundings, a habit neither time nor safety could break. "We start back next week," Megan said softly, her fingers finding the spot behind Max's ear that always made him lean into her touch. New division, new responsibilities. The Department of Homeland Security had created a specialized unit focused on pharmaceutical and biological security, with Megan as its founding director. Max would be the prototype for a new category of detection dogs trained specifically to identify compounds associated with biological agents. Their partnership had reshaped security protocols across the country. Airports implemented enhanced screening for medical shipments. Hospitals developed new verification systems, and law enforcement agencies established independent oversight for evidence handling. Max nudged Megan's hand, his warm breath fogging slightly in the cool air. He didn't understand the scale of what they had uncovered or the lives they had saved. He knew only that his person had been hurt, that he had protected her, and that they remained together. As the sun began its descent behind the city skyline, Megan stood. "Let's go home, partner." Max fell into perfect heel position beside her, their shadows merging into a single silhouette against the fading light. The path ahead would bring new challenges, but they would face them together, bound by a trust that transcended words and training. Frontlines. 18 months later, Megan and Max found themselves in a mobile command center near Chicago's Navy Pier. The Homeland Security Biodefense Unit had intercepted communications suggesting an imminent attack targeting the International Medical Technologies Conference. 8,000 doctors, researchers, and pharmaceutical executives had gathered, representing an irresistible target for terrorist organizations. Megan studied the conference floor plans while Max lay at her feet, seemingly relaxed but missing nothing. The Shepherd's training had evolved dramatically since their airport discovery. He now recognized over 60 specific chemical compounds associated with weaponized biological agents. Deputy Director Samuels approached with grim news. Facial recognition just confirmed it. Anton Resnick, former Soviet bioweapons scientist, disappeared from Kazakhstan 3 years ago, presumed recruited by Cerberus Network. Cerberus had emerged as one of the most sophisticated terrorist organizations globally, driven not by ideology, but by profit. They developed and sold bioweapons to the highest bidders, testing their products in demonstrations that had claimed thousands of lives across 3 continents. The operation mobilized with practiced precision. Teams deployed throughout the conference center, their presence disguised as additional security. Megan and Max entered through the service entrance, her credentials identifying her as venue security while Max wore a therapy dog harness, a cover that allowed unrestricted access without arousing suspicion. They moved methodically through the exhibition hall, Max's nose working constantly. His behavior shifted subtly as they approached the western section, not a full alert, but a change in his breathing pattern that Megan had learned to recognize as preliminary interest. 20 feet from a display for Meridian Filtration Technologies, Max froze, displaying his alert posture for detecting biological agents. Megan tapped her communication device twice, signaling a potential positive. The Meridian representative turned toward them, his expression pleasant until his gaze locked with Megan's. Recognition flashed across his features. His hand moved toward his jacket pocket. Max reacted instantly, launching forward and colliding with the representative's chest. Simultaneously, Megan drew her concealed weapon, identifying herself as federal law enforcement. The Meridian representative, later identified as Yusef Barakov, a Cerberus operative, had carried a specialized aerosol device designed to disperse weaponized pneumonic plague throughout the ventilation system. Similar devices were recovered from 3 other locations within the conference center. Forensic analysis revealed a devastating truth. The strain had been engineered for delayed symptom onset. Had the attack succeeded, infected conference attendees would have returned to their homes across 68 countries, triggering a global pandemic that could have claimed millions of lives. In the aftermath, Megan sat alone with Max in a quiet corner of the command center. "You saved thousands today," she whispered, stroking the soft fur between his ears. Again, the Chicago operation marked a turning point in the international response to bioterrorism. For the first time, law enforcement had names, locations, and communication protocols that could be exploited to dismantle Cerberus's operations. Guardian's heart. Winter descended upon Washington, D.C. as Megan and Max prepared for their most dangerous mission. Cerberus had established a research facility in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan, where they were developing ethnically targeted bioweapons, pathogens designed to attack specific genetic markers. More personally significant for Megan, intelligence analysis had confirmed that Robert Harrington, her former police chief, had resurfaced as a key lieutenant within Cerberus. His knowledge of law enforcement protocols had helped the organization stay one step ahead of international efforts. A joint special forces team would infiltrate the facility, with Megan and Max accompanying them to identify and secure any bioagents. The night before deployment, Megan sat on her apartment floor with Max beside her, finding comfort in his presence. The shepherd had grown more distinguished with age, touches of gray now frosting his muzzle, but his eyes remained as keen as ever. The insertion occurred under cover of a mountain snowstorm. Max moved confidently through knee-deep snow, his training overcoming his natural aversion to extreme cold. Entry through a maintenance shaft proceeded without resistance, but the first sign of wrongness came from Max. The shepherd stopped abruptly, his body language communicating confusion rather than alert. Megan recognized this immediately. Max had detected something for which he had no reference point. The laboratory appeared recently abandoned, with evidence of hasty departure littering workstations. Max alerted on a sealed containment unit containing rows of genetic material from diverse population groups, organized by ethnic origin. As the team's scientific specialist documented the findings, a countdown timer appeared on all laboratory monitors, 10 minutes to detonation. Evacuation protocols initiated instantly. Team members secured critical evidence while Megan worked with Max to identify biological agents requiring specialized containment. For minutes into the evacuation, Max broke formation, charging down an auxiliary corridor despite Megan's recall command. She followed immediately, trusting his judgment. The corridor ended at a reinforced door, slightly ajar. Inside, they discovered 3 captives, emaciated scientists who had attempted to defect upon discovering the true nature of the research. With 2 minutes remaining on the countdown, standard extraction was abandoned in favor of an emergency ascent through a ventilation system, following Max's lead as he traced the source of fresh air to a maintenance tunnel angling upward toward the surface. They emerged 300 yards from the compound with 17 seconds to spare. The explosion collapsed the facility inward, burying its secrets beneath tons of reinforced concrete and mountain stone. The mountain operation represented both triumph and sobering reality. While they had disrupted a critical Cerberus research hub and rescued valuable intelligence assets, the organization's leadership remained intact. More importantly, Cerberus had already distributed preliminary research to clients across the globe. 2 weeks after returning from Kyrgyzstan, Megan testified before a classified congressional committee, with Max lying at her feet throughout the proceedings. In response, funding for biodefense initiatives doubled overnight, and a specialized global response network was established, with Megan appointed as its inaugural director. On a clear spring morning, Megan and Max walked along the reflecting pool in the National Mall. Max moved with the slightly stiffer gait of a dog entering his senior years, but his senses remained sharply attuned, his devotion undiminished. They had begun as an unlikely partnership, a detective seeking justice and a troubled dog needing purpose. They had evolved into something unprecedented, guardians operating at the intersection of law enforcement, intelligence, and public health. Max paused beside a flowering cherry tree, amber eyes tracking a distant falcon. Megan followed his gaze, appreciating how he still found wonder in the world despite all they had witnessed. In that shared moment lay the essence of their exceptional partnership, not just training or capability, but the profound understanding that true protection came from connection. The future remained uncertain, filled with threats both known and yet unimagined, but they would face it as they had faced everything else. Together, heartbeat aligned with heartbeat, guardians of each other and all they had sworn to protect. Every day across America, real-life Max and Megan partnerships worked tirelessly to keep us safe. Their stories rarely make headlines, their victories measured in threats that never materialize, lives never endangered. In airports, border crossings, and public spaces, K9 detection teams form bonds as unbreakable as the one in our story. A handler's trust in their dog's instincts isn't fiction, it's operational necessity. The German Shepherd who alerts on an unmarked package, the Belgian Malinois who detects chemical threats in crowded venues, the Labrador who identifies biological agents before they can spread, these are the silent guardians operating at society's edge. Their communication transcends language, built on thousands of hours of training and mutual respect. When a detection dog's behavior changes, experienced handlers don't dismiss it. They know something we don't. What seems like heightened loyalty in our story reflects documented cases where K9 officers have saved their handlers from hidden threats, unseen assailants, or environmental dangers. The connection isn't just emotional, it's evolutionary, 2 species working in harmony, each compensating for the other's limitations. In an uncertain world, where threats grow increasingly sophisticated, these partnerships represent humanity's most ancient alliance, reimagined for modern dangers. Their story isn't just fiction. It's happening right now, in cities and towns across the country. Thank you for watching this heartfelt story. We hope it touched your heart and left you with something meaningful to reflect on. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave a comment to share your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more inspiring stories like this. Your support means the world to us. See you in the next video.